Here on the Creative Thinker podcast, we discuss all theories, philosophy, and thought behind the creative process. And we hope that you find some inspiration along the way. Creative thinkers all around the globe, it's my pleasure to welcome you once again to the Creative Thinker podcast. I'm your host and fellow artist, Henry Moon. Today, I'm excited to bring you guys an interview with Hawk, the owner of the Nevermore Visuals production company based right here in Central Texas. That's exciting. Nevermore Visuals provides content marketing and support for bands and artists alike. Hey, Hawk, you got a really cool job. You go on tour with bands across America. You record it all. It's like working on a documentary with a dope soundtrack. So welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Um, we've heard how I would describe your job, but that might not be how you describe it. Can you tell us how you think of what you do and what got you into it?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking, first of all. But yeah, so I'd say you're pretty close to like how you described it as far as like what I actually do. Like, with any of this sort of stuff, it's like I can throw a bunch of words together and like say that I'm doing something else, but like really it's like I'm taking photos and videos and like, I'm doing that sort of stuff for bands. But like if I were to like use the fancy words and everything, like I work with musicians to attain their goals through the use of multimedia. That's the majority of my work, at least for 2022. It's just been touring with rock and metal bands and creating content on different social media platforms. I've done quite literally all of them for entire tours, like including Twitch. So, live streaming, video, photo, and of course, like every client is going to change depending on like whether they care about one thing or the other, or like if they have the budget. Because like, if you want to do live streaming for every show, like go fuck yourself, pay me. Like it's a lot of work. So like, not everyone's going to do that. Some are going to be more photo heavy. But yeah, so like I was just doing some math this morning actually. For like a case studies part of my website that I'm gonna be integrating. And it looks like for the bands of 2022 that I worked with, we are just short of 5 million views. So that should give you like a good idea of like where the attention is. It's like mostly like video kind of work.
Yeah, I was checking out your website. First of all, you do a much better job of websites than I've seen anybody in the Austin area do, including like a really sick welcome video that's kind of like, hey, if you're looking for my services, this is what I can do. And about halfway through, you're like, hey, if you made it this far, you're probably not like you're probably one of the bands that needs my help, basically. I mean, right? And I thought that's such a sick introduction. And just looking through your stuff, it's like I knew like I've seen enough of your work to know that you're very good at what you do, but I hadn't seen your music video work before. So I was like kind of going down the rabbit hole of the website today. I was like, how involved do you get with the music videos? Because they're so varied and like both color, tone, and like the way you shoot. Like some are concert heavy stuff and like photos you've taken, I'm assuming on tour. And some are like really scripted out. So like how involved do you get in those?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it really like depends. Like, so some of the work on my site is like, like I was a part of a crew at like, for example, like the Kublai Khan videos that are up there. Like I love those videos so much because like I did them with my friend Ori, who's like literally the reason that I've like cared so much and like got into video was like seeing his stuff and being like, whoa, like that's sick. And that was like some of the earlier stuff that I did. So like I was less involved in like the planning and production of that. It was mostly just like he's like, hey, dude, like we're gonna be in Texas, and like I thought of you. You're there. Like if you want to come do it, like I'll have you on second camera operator. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. Whereas like there's other ones, like a most recent example would be with the band Bridges Ablaze, where like I will actually like with younger bands like this. Like I'll do like a whole coaching program with them in that like I'll bring in some like other I guess like experts or experts in this case being like people that know what they're talking about within the music industry that have like achieved something. And then we do like, like strategy sessions with the band as well as do the music video, do some content and like just get really, really involved with them because they really, really need this help. So usually the people that watch the video that you saw usually are the people that sign up for something like that. Whereas like the bigger bands that are like doing like mostly like tour media with me, it's kind of like, hey, like this is our goal. Like we're trying to grow our, X platform or like here and there. I'll use a band that I toured with, All That Remains. They were like, we don't have a TikTok. We know that it's important. These guys are in their 50s. So like they're not gonna do shit with it. But like we need them to be present on that. So like that is gonna be a focus of ours. And then like, I'm involved in them with them in the sense of like, okay, like I really have to coach you through like what we're gonna do for this content. It's very hands-on. Whereas like, some of the younger bands that you work with, it's like you show up, they're super used to this shit and they like give you all kinds of like, you know, shit right off the bat. And it's like you're very, I guess, like not involved in the process because like they're already doing it for you. Um, so yeah, I think that answers the question.
Yeah.
Varying very widely, generally based on like skill and budget.
Well, like, I mean, one of the things you do that's super intense, first of all, like you're taking somebody who has no business experience whatsoever, and you're sitting them down and saying, hey, you need a business plan for your art, basically. And it's like, I mean, how often, just at my curiosity alone, how often do you have to like fight the ego of like, I don't know, I've never done anything for business for myself or for my art. How often do you have to fight that kind of ego?
Uh, in the sense of like client acquisition, or like once you're in the project with them, and then like you're from there.
Yeah, I would guess like more convincing people that this is something that they need, because I find with like the lower or more amateur, I guess, artists, the closer you get to amateur, the more they get defensive of like, if you change anything, you're ruining my art. And it's really more along the lines of like, I'm making you more accessible to the crowd you're trying to promote yourself to.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's a lot of things we got to change, and that's why you're not big yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say now that I understand. Yeah, I mean there's like a little bit of like the griping back and forth, I guess, like if they're coming in like super unqualified and like maybe like a cold approach that I've like done to a band. But like by and large, especially the bands that I'll work with, like I don't even like I can name drop like one band and it just like shuts them up. Like it'd be like, yeah, I was on tour with Papa Roach for 2 weeks. Like I know what I'm talking about. Like, and then they're just like, oh, well, all right. And like I don't generally take like the name drop approach, but like usually it's like through like pointed questions, like things I know they don't know the answer to. I'll just ask you that. I'll be like, well, like, like how far along is your EPK? And they'll be like, what even is that? And you're like, oh, well, like that's the most like fundamental thing of like being a band. Like you have to have an EPK to like send out to people. It's like literally your currency. Be like, if I was like, how much money do you have in your bank account? And you're like, a bank account? What's that? Like, So I think like once they're kind of like on the call, and if they're like, actually like qualified ahead of time and they've like done their research on me, I think a lot of the times they kind of know what they're getting into. And it's like, you're coming to me because you need help. And then also I price the shit out of these projects. Like I'm not kidding. Like it's so much work, but it's like so expensive. Like we're talking like anywhere in the like usually like 10 to 15 to 20K range, for like a sizable project for a band. And it's like, yeah, like you hear that number and you're like, I mean, that's a car. So like
And
you either want it
not
or you
anymore.
don't.
It used to be, right? No.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
No, but yeah, I mean that's the reasonable price for what you're doing. You're basically their entire marketing division for I don't know how long. I guess if you're on tour, that's anywhere from like 2 weeks to 3 months or on up, I guess. But
Yeah, that's pretty much about it. I did a 2 weeker this year, and I also did a 3 monther and like 1 month. Usually they're 1 month, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, six is like common. 3 months is like holy shit, man. And then 2 weeks is usually like the band hasn't brought anybody out. They're halfway through a tour, and then like they see everybody else on the tour crushing on social media, and they're like, "Man, these random photographers like aren't getting me shit." Like,
Yeah,
you
no
know,
joke.
yeah. So then they quickly call up whoever they can and save the tour, man. Like, yeah, here I come.
Yeah, I've only been, I think, about a week and a half. And by the end of that, you're kind of like, I don't know. That's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Is like, but you're also with bigger bands than who I was on tour with. So, like, not only am I in sort of like super low light situations, it's also like for what they wanted out of it. I felt like I was pretty much good after the first two gigs. Like, I've got what I need. So,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
how do you keep that fresh? Like,
How
how
do
do
you?
you? So I'm guessing there's a give and take between like pushing yourself creatively and then like here's the package I put together for the band. So like,
Mhm.
how do you keep yourself entertained but also make sure you're delivering what you need?
Yeah, I think it's fairly easy in the sense of okay, like I'll kind of address like like a touring band, for example. A lot of the times, for one, like when you're working with like the bigger artists, they're gonna be they're gonna be like just genuinely like appreciative that you're there, and they're also gonna be like expecting you to do a good amount of work. But like for the most part, it's a very like connected industry, and like usually pretty quickly, like even if you have zero knowledge of the people that you're out with, by like the end of week one, like you're good friends with everybody. So like there's that element in the sense of like like it's kind of casual, so like you're mostly there to like help them. um but on my end of things, like I'm pretty organized about everything that I do, so like when I go into the tour, I've already like in my head, like not in my head, but like I've already researched the bands, like their YouTube, like what is already existing for them. Like I try to learn a little bit about the members ahead of time, and then I plan out a bunch of content prior to that. So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, like um, I'll use the All That Remains example again, just because like I'm the most like fresh up on them or whatever. Basically, I'm like looking at their content, and I'm like, oh, okay, this guy Phil is like he's like a little bit political with some of the things he says. He's like he doesn't know like too crazy, but like he's like super pro 2A. He's like really involved with the Black Rifle Coffee guys. There's a lot of that sort of stuff. Like we're gonna be going to a gun range. Like the tour told me ahead of time, so like I know that I should probably like do some stuff in that, and like so I just write down a bunch of content ideas for Phil specific that I can do, and then it's like, okay, well, we got Jason Richardson is like literally the best guitar player in the world, at least in my opinion. And it's like, okay, so I can ask him about like technical stuff, and he's like a super nerd, so it's like I can talk to him about video games, shit like this. Um, and so you do these things, you're able to just like see it from like what's been done for them before, and then it's like you kind of just have that with you every day, and you just do like a little check, like all right, cool, like I checked that off. And like maybe it's something that you go and you revisit because it's like a repeatable form of content, and maybe it's just like it didn't seem like it went well, or you asked the question and the guy was just like, I don't fucking know, man. Like, and you're like, all right, cool. Like, we're not gonna do that one again. Like, we gotta go back to the drawing board on that. But yeah, you have your prepared stuff, but I like to also like, a lot of these bands, like these guys will have like some ideas of like things they want to try. So, like I usually just initiate the conversation so that at least it's not like they don't feel like I'm not doing the thing. I'm like, hey, like, do you have any ideas for today? Like anything special? Like anything notable about this city to you, or whatever. And like, if they have ideas, great. Like, can we do it? And if like they don't have ideas, like, nope, we can't do it. And like that's kind of that. And like everybody's pretty like loosey goose with it because just like the nature of the industry itself and like the lifestyle of it is like you literally just like exist in the moment, and like anything before and after that like doesn't matter, with like rare exception. Like if you like blow up, like everybody's allowed, they say like you're allowed one blow up on tour, like you can lose your shit. I mean like lose it. And everyone would just be like, whoa, okay, as long as you like collect yourself. All right, guys, like I'm sorry, kind of like lost my shit there, but like whatever. And then like beyond that, you're good. And for like most things, like yeah, if previous city doesn't matter. So unless you're like majorly fucking up like over and over again, like it's a pretty like true to the moment experience, I guess.
Well, I had a question about how you shoot, and the way you describe that makes it make a little bit more sense. Just looking at your photos, I feel like there's so much room for the viewer. It just everything feels so quiet and peaceful, and like I don't know, it doesn't feel as frenetic as most band photos are, where there's like some sort of thrashing and or it's a little bit blurry and it's a little bit, I don't know, it just feels like chaos, a lot of people's photos. But looking through yours, it's like there's always not only do I not feel like there's a lot of ISO, which is another question I have for you, but it also just feels like very calm, even though people are throwing their hair, thrashing. It's like metal music, right? Gigantic rooms stuffed with people, but it's very peaceful. And so I was just sort of the way you describe it. It's like I've been on tour with a metal band once or twice, like very few times. And for me, it's like just the fact that I'm sort of an anxious person. It's like that environment is not really where I feel peaceful, and so it's hard for me to get peaceful shots. I feel like my emotions override what I'm looking for in a lot of situations. But I don't get that vibe from your stuff, and I'm wondering if you put a name to that, if that's something that you attribute anything to your shooting style. Is that a clear question?
Yeah, no, that's a clear question. That's a good one. It's funny too because my girlfriend was just like describing some of my photos in like a very similar way. Um, so like it's not something that's like new to me, but it's like kind of new in the sense of like I've only just started hearing that stuff. I think it makes sense. Like maybe in the sense of like they're like stoic a little bit. Um, I think a big part of it. I don't know if I have them on hand right. Oh, I do. Okay, cool. If I could give a little shout out to 6-4 Audio, I have these beautiful custom molded like in ears from them.
Oh, cool.
And so the benefit of that is like one like hearing protection and like you don't have to like throw away earplugs and like get them all gross and shit. Um, but the other like main thing about it is they're the most noise canceling like of all the things and like those ones specifically are like very specially designed in the sense that like you can crank them as loud as you want uh, but they will never hurt your ears because like I guess apparently like volume isn't bad for ears, it's the pressure that builds up in it, so they have a pressure release system like whatever. So like
Cool.
point being like I can be in a room of like 12,000 people but like literally there is nothing existing to me in the moment other than one I'm linked into exactly what the band hears and like what front of house hears, so like I have their mix, I'm hearing everything live, so like I'm very in tune with them. Bands of these calibers also like they have metronomes going, so like I'm existing on a metronome, like I'm shooting on a metronome as well, like if that makes sense. So like everything is just kind of happening like very in sync. It's like very quiet, and yeah, there's like people all around me and stuff. But yeah, it's just like I exist in kind of like my own little bubble, and I just like scoot in and out throughout the show and just like try to find like the one beautiful spot where I feel like it's like captured the thing, and like I wait for the shot to happen. Uh, and you know what it's going to be because you know the set list ahead of time. Like you've had a sound check earlier today, so like you know what's going to happen and when, and especially if you're like really familiar with a band. Like for me, it's like Miss May I. Like I know their set so well that I could like just put on their regular Spotify songs and I could like do the like things that their singer Levi will like say into the mic to the crowd. I can do them like exactly where he would put them. I'll just like make up a random city and be like, Hartford, you know what I mean? Like I just like I know when shit's happening. So it's like you get to know the show, the production like really, really well when you're on a tour, especially when you tour with them for like a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean that's the way it feels, right? You're alone in a room with people you admire. That's how the photos come across. And it's like, I don't know, that's cool that you're more or less putting yourself in the headspace of that. Like you're just um I don't know, that's an interesting idea to me because like I said, being somebody that's sort of my emotions are at the forefront of what I end up creating, it's like I I want to do the most I can to put myself in the right headspace for what I'm doing. And that's cool that you found something that, I mean, it works so good and it's so different from everything else I've seen, especially in Central Texas. Um, so that's just,
Thank
you
you.
know, some compliments for you.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good one. It's like way better than the like, dude, your shit's sick. It's like,
Yeah.
thanks,
This,
man.
this is so fucking fire, bro.
Yeah.
What? um, So, talking about ISO, I guess it's a technical question for me. It's like you're in a lot of low light situations, and I feel like the conversation around ISO is like anything over 800, you may as well kill yourself. I mean, that's a terrible way to put it, but that's like what I hear the most. And it's like anytime I'm in a band situation, it's like I'm at 3,200 sort of minimum, you know, and I don't know, like what's your approach to ISO?
Yeah, I'll split it into like two ways because like one of the answers I feel like is just gonna be like so useless, and like the other answer I feel like will give you a little bit more of what you want. tease you with the non-answer first. I have a Sony. It has a dual native ISO. It's at 640 and 12,800. Just fucking set that shit to 12,800. Put a variable ND on the front, and like, so long, Captain. You're good to go. And then also like, especially in video, like it's a pretty like non-factor, right? Because you're shooting at like 148 or like 150 until you're getting the like super slow-mo shit. But even then, you're gonna like speed that shit up in post. So it's like probably realistically gonna be fine to shoot at 60 because like you're doing these shorter edits. So it's like, yeah, I got to be over like 1/20. But yeah, for the more practical answer, I've done most of my work on a Fujifilm X-T4, and that camera is horrible at low light. It's so bad, like I couldn't even describe it. But the nice thing, and I think the thing that will like trump all else, is like, one, waiting for the right shots. I think it's it's part of like one concert photographers in general, but like I can't always tell if it's because there's like a 3-song rule for like the majority of photographers. Like that's obviously not the case for like tour photographers. But like I think when you get conditioned so like into that, you are kind of like frantic with your shots, and you're like shooting these like crazy like burst thing, like just trying to get like anything. And like my approach with the Fuji was like I shot manual focus on like adapted lenses. So I had like my autofocus shit. I couldn't even use it if I wanted to. And it's just like I know that I have my framing right. And if I have my framing right and the shot's beautiful, like all it is a matter of like waiting for the right time to take the shot. And I would shoot it on single. So I wouldn't shoot like, fucking a shit ton of photos in a night. Like I'd have like
30
500
frames per second, right?
Yeah. So yeah, as for like practical things you can do like outside of that, I would say like not even to like gatekeep my settings. Basically, usually anywhere from 125 to 250, but preference on 250, unless I'm shooting a drummer, which case is 500 or more, or super super slow. Like, because sometimes it's really cool when you get like the fucking crazy stick shit. But yeah, that, and then on a Fuji, I usually stick it at like anywhere from like 32 to like whatever the next step is. I don't even have my camera on me, but like, oh great, my light fell.
Like 64, I think. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
on
64 was like pretty rough. I think there was maybe 48 or something like this. I don't know, but usually, yeah, it's set at 32. And then the two things that'll like really save it are like, one, that noise feature in masking, sharpness and noise, dragging those up. Same thing with the noise reduction filter, as well as like the sharpening filter. If you're able to like adequately like mask those areas, that's good. And then my biggest trick is like extending the dynamic range of the image by pulling something like the contrast like way the fuck down and then just adjusting later. That's generally kind of like how I would shoot a super low light situation.
I've seen some people like even painting in eyelashes when they're done and stuff. And I feel like that's way too much. Like you're going to be doing like an hour per photo if you do that.
Yeah, I try to do like 5 minutes of photo.
Yeah.
Is especially photos, I try to just like bang them out and get them quick, because in the long run they like represent such small amount of value, I guess, to at least to these kind of clients. I mean, it's cool, they love having it, but it's more like a sentimental thing for them, I think, photos, than like a thing that actually like does numbers for them and like makes a change in what they're doing.
Yeah. And
So
like just eyes on, you're talking about what, 2 seconds or less. Like 2 seconds is on the long end of how long someone else is going to look at it. So, if you're talking about
exactly.
fan interaction, that's going to be super low for pictures. So yeah, I mean anything over 5 minutes, I agree. That's like way too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got a couple other questions for
Mhm.
you. Um, you mentioned the last time that we spoke that this is a slow time of year for you, which makes sense because bands aren't touring, but this is like right before you pop off. And so you said something that stood out to me. It's like you're doing things to keep yourself moving, but you're allowing yourself to rest, basically.
Mhm.
And I thought that was number one, that was a pretty insightful little short statement because not only does it show that you work a whole lot, so it's like you you respect the option of having rest, but it also means like that amateur level mantra of like work hard and then when you're tired work harder is like is evidence that they don't have a pointed goal, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like it shows that you do meaningful work and that you rest in between. So I guess my question is like, what made you arrive at that workflow? If you could put it into words, and how do you decide on what work is most meaningful for you? I
Yeah.
know like
Those are,
later in your career it's like money, right? But
mhm.
but that's not necessarily the case as you make that transition into being a professional. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think those are great questions. I'll try to answer them as best I can because I feel like there's so much to say on the the topic of that. So, um, what made me? I'll start with what made me sort of like arrive at this conclusion. um One of the biggest successes I see in my business was when I like niched down and like really focused and was like would just turn shit down like more than I would say yes. And I'd be the one like rejecting people. I'd like get like 5 minutes into a call with somebody and I'd be like, yeah, like this is cool. Like I'll do my best to like recommend you, but like I don't think this is gonna be the right thing. Because I was like, I'm looking for, like I want to do these strategy projects or like I want to go on good tours. I'm not doing any band tours. I'm not fucking around and like doing this low budget shit. Like it's a lot of work. I know it is. I can crush it. I know I can. So like, I guess, you know, it's just like that's how it's gonna be. And like when you do that, like it's weird. I don't know if it's just like something in your like character changes or like if people like kind of like talk within the industry, but then it's like then the things that you get after, like there's a period of time where like, oh shit, like did I turn everybody away? And then like someone calls you and they're like, I need you for a tour, and then it's like the best thing that ever happens. You're like, oh my god, like you're the right one, and then you go and you do it, and it's great, and it's like way better than the time that I spent like, oh man, like I could really use some money this month, like I could just try to like take whatever I can and like try to like like you get on a call with somebody, it's like, okay, well like I gotta get this job, like I gotta get it, uh, but then the problem is it's like they can sense that, and then like it just becomes this like downward bid, and like the I guess like truest thing that you can see in like any of business is like um okay, say I'm like selling you a print. If I sell that print for $20 and like my goal for the month is to make $1,000, like I have to sell so many fucking prints. I gotta sell like what 40, 50 prints or 100 prints. I don't fucking know. 50 or 100. That's a lot of fucking prints to sell, man. Like that's a big number. Or I could sell them for $200 and sell five.
And how much time
So
are you spending per pitch too? Like if you're actually actively selling people on it, right?
yeah. So yeah, point being it's like it's better to wait up for like the bigger things and like focus on it, because like when you're in that like small grind and like you're trying to just like do the most, like not only are you like way too into your business, like in the actual working end of it, like your goal should always be to like outsource and take profits like as much as possible, and then like do the work that you think only you can do, and that you actually enjoy doing. So like for me, like I enjoy being out there in the field, filming, shooting, doing all that kind of stuff. And like if I'm not doing that, I enjoy like planning things. And outside of that, I'm just gonna like keep it all away. Um, the other major thing that kind of made me like arrive at that is like if you go on a like I guess I would call like a big boy tour, like not to like say anything about like smaller tours, but like it becomes really prevalent like when you're doing like theaters and like bigger clubs. I did a 3 month run. I did uh, live streaming every night, photo, video, uh, and then weekly YouTube drop YouTube videos a week for one of the bands, and then on the other band that I also worked for on the same tour, I would do photo and video nightly plus weekly recaps, and like it was great. I had a lot of fun, but like you get home from a tour like that, and like even if it went like perfectly, which it didn't, because there's like all kinds of things that go wrong with tour, not like anything bad like me personally or with like the bands personally, but like for example, like our fucking bus fell through for like 2 weeks. Like we had no bus. We were driving like 8 hours a day in like these Escalades, two Escalades. with like trailer. Dude, it was nuts. And it's like you get home and you sleep for like 48 hours straight, literally. And you're like, yeah, like I have another tour in 2 weeks. I'm not gonna do anything because I made a shit ton of money on this. I worked really hard, and then like if I want to like have a functioning spine for the next 10 years, like I think I gotta like chill, like go to the gym, eat healthy, and like get a good amount of sleep. And like I think that's where you are. And yeah, so like I don't know. I guess I was just fortunate to be like booked for most of the year. And so like I've been a couple months like off from touring now, basically uh yeah, like 2 or 3 months off of it. And it's like it's a little nerve wracking, but like I filled it in with some fun stuff. I did a project with somebody in the weed space, the dopest Yola. And that was really fun. And I did it because like it was something that was like still meaningful to me. My friend like runs that podcast. He recently did a TED talk, and like he's just always been really good about like introducing me to the right people. So I had a good time, and like yeah, I guess like the whole ethos is like you should always be really content and like happy with what you're doing, because then when you're there and like you're present in the moment with that client, you've like already pre-qualified them to such a point that like they can tell that you're enjoying yourself, you're happy, you're in a good headspace, like you're trying to be a good crew member, and like you're trying to do the most to help them attain their goals. And it like is obvious because like you want to work with them as much as they want to work with you. There's a mutual respect. Whereas like when you're on, like smaller budget projects, like you tend to like have a little bit of resentment inside of you, like for that thing. You're like, man, this guy's only paying me fucking $500, dude. What the fuck? Like, and it sucks. And like you're gonna carry yourself that way because you're like, oh well, like I'm great, but this guy's paying me $500, so like I'm not going to like bring my like sickest kit, and like I'm not gonna like do all the crazy like stuff to like really try to impress you. Like I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna do the fucking gig for exactly how long I said I was gonna do it, and then I'm gonna leave, and we're not gonna talk again. And
That's
like,
exactly right.
yeah, but like that's the attitude that you bring to it. So it's like, you know, I guess the goal is I would rather work with less people and like have a little bit more risk on my end of like, oh man, like I gotta like toe the line and like be a responsible adult and like budget things. But like the experience for my clients at the end of it is like always so much better because it's like they get me, it's like very cool, calm, collected, like ready, here to go, happy to be here, happy to work, stoked to do like whatever we gotta do. And like this is the entirety of my attention. You have it. Like this is what we're focused on. And like that's what breeds results, I think.
Yeah, there's something to be said for not only are you letting yourself know that um, you're worth the decision of turning down things you don't want to do. I mean, that's like such an important like switch to flip inside you to say like, yeah, this is something that makes me uncomfortable and I'm not going to do it. Like, thanks, like outward version of me from inward version of me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm so thankful I said no when I meant no, and yes when I meant yes. And then once you do that, and then you provide the effort at that point to like just sort of cut yourself loose and know where your boundaries are. I think it's such a cool thing, and I think that's me personally. That's what I believe. Like other people respond to, like when you meet these people who are professionals who are sort of like at the high end of their chosen vocation. It's like they had to go through that exact same thing, and when they see it, they respond to it immediately. It's like, dude, thank you. I'm glad that this is something that you love doing. I can see the steps of that progression that led you here, and you're on the project. Like that's kick ass. Like I'm just grateful to have other people, people who make it to an extremely high level always, in their interviews talk about, well, it's because we have a great team. And it's like, it's such a cliche because so many people say it, but it's like, that's what it takes, right? It takes a bunch of people who are really good, who are really enthusiastic to have around you to then keep building you up. And of course you're appreciative of that because my goodness, so
Yeah,
much work goes into that. Why wouldn't you be?
definitely. And like I think the other thing, like especially to that point of like when you're meeting somebody that's doing like whatever their field is at a really high level, um, I don't know. I've been fortunate to like meet enough of those people through like a variety of categories, and there's one thing they all have in common, and that's that they are so fucking nice. It's unbelievable. Like the people that are really crushing it, like I guess like my best like practical example of this was like something that was like I guess like a little bit of a switch in my life. You might know Judy Wan. She was a portrait and concert photographer. She has Hailstorm as like her main band. She's in like Tool, all this sort of stuff. But she's in like the local Austin community for a while. She moves to Nashville. So sad to see her leave. But I did a project with her with like some really like I'm talking members of Alice Cooper, Guns N' Roses, you know, Joe Satriani, fucking Kenny Aronoff, like huge name people at a studio. And like, so I'm like, you know, close proximity with these people, whatever. And like, we get to the end of the week, everyone again, good moods, right? Because like everyone's happy to be there. And I remember like me and Judy and one other person had to be up like stupid early, like I don't know, 4 or 5 a.m. to like leave for the airport from El Paso to like do this stuff. And like I had finally told Rich from Guns N' Roses that I was like, dude, like, yeah, you guys were like a huge band for me, like growing up. Like literally the first song I ever heard in my life, you know, was like a Guns N' Roses track. And like, yeah, like it's huge. And he's like, dude, thanks so much, whatever. He's like all soft spoken and nice. And then this motherfucker wakes up at like 5 in the morning and is like in his like, you know, little dad outfit with his like cargo shorts and like a green t-shirt and shit. And he was just like, hey Hawk, like just wanted to make sure like I said bye to you guys. Like thanks so much for like, you know, everything that you guys are doing on this, you know, this project and everything. And like, yeah, like safe travels. And you're like, you didn't have to do that, like at all. But that just
That's
like
so cool.
made my
Yeah.
whole shit. You know what I mean? And
That's
like,
epic. Yeah.
yeah, that's like how they are though. Like every successful person is like always so stoked to be there and like I don't know. So it's like I guess I try to make sure that I'm facilitating that in my own space as well so that I can be similar to that at some point, you know? Just try to good faith your way through as much as possible.
Yeah. Practice your gratitude. So for anybody who just skipped ahead, we're talking to Hawk of Nevermore Visuals. That's HAUKE, Nevermore Visuals, based in Central Texas. Check him out if you have the chance. His work is really amazing. But I wanted to re-bring up. You touched on something really cool, which is not only are you talking about emulating the greats, which is with enthusiasm and making sure you go the extra mile for the people that you're on the project with. But I wanted to sort of ask you, like, is that a part of your success, or is that something that you've picked up along the way? Like you started off saying, I want to emulate the people who are doing this the best, or is this something that's like through admiration you've ended up at?
Uh, I think it's always been like instilled on me pretty early. Like, I had a career in hair before I did any sort of like film work or anything. Like,
Dude, no wonder that mane is fabulous.
thank you. But yeah, I mean, like I always take everything that I do like really seriously, even though like for me, like when I did hair, even though I did it 7 days a week and like I worked for 7 years like doing that. Like it's like it was a backup gig, but it was like still like I was like, no, like I'm going to be the best at this thing that I'm doing. And like I don't care. Like I remember one time I like planned a whole trip to California from Massachusetts, where I used to live, to like meet this hairstylist I respected, pay him some money to like let me watch him for a day because it's LA and like that's how they do out there. And then he canceled on me while I was out there. I found somebody else that I respected and like he's my friend today. But like again, he was the same way. His name's Philip Wolf. And like uh that dude crushes and he's also like so fucking nice. He was just like, oh dude, Dre bailed on you. Like that sucks. But like you can come hang out with me for free and like I will tell you anything you want to know. And like, you know, I watched as that benefited him too, because then he launched like a scissor sponsorship and he had showed me like one of the prototypes like while I was there. And like, of course I fucking bought the scissors when they that shit came out. Like, yeah, he gave me a discount and everything too. But like, boom, like did that. I made him some money. And then of course I like bragged about it to everybody. I was like, dude, like check out these fucking sweet things. And like whatever, they cut grade, this and that. But it's like that all happened because like he didn't have to do that. I offered to pay him at the end. And he like specifically was like, no, like I'm not doing that. And that was so different. And he was like the counter of that. And it's like he's one of the biggest hairstylists like out there. And it's like you learn that sort of stuff very quick. So it's like I've always admired people when they're really good in their field, especially if I can be on the client end of it and like experience that. I remember the first time I was in a music video was with my friend Alex Kubatsos at Black Wolf Imaging. I think we were then like his first like 10 music videos. Uh, but like, man, he fucking crushed it. Like, he brought a team with him. Like, he had all the like the you know, at my time, I mean, it's still like pretty fancy equipment, but he's like GH5 on a gimbal, and like I'd never seen a gimbal in my life. But he's like, he had like some tracks, he had lights, he had everything. Like, he was super like responsive, and like so I had a good time, and I was like, oh, well, like at the very least, like if I'm going to like start a new career path and do this, like I have to at least like do it in a way where like like if I was a client, I'd be stoked to like receive that. And then it's like it's only about like making it better from there, and he's since like he's crushing super, super hard. Like he's blown bands up with his music videos, and like he's awesome. And yeah, so it was like he was awesome. And like I referred him to everybody in the local Massachusetts and Connecticut scene. And like a bunch of people went to him. And then like the big bands that went to him from the scene then are like big, big bands like Currents or um, Shadow of Intent, like all these big metalcore bands like now that had like went to him for whatever videos. Then it's like, so he's crushing, he's growing with them, and it's like, okay, cool, well, I'm watching this happen. He's only getting better and nicer and more like giving in his productions and such. It's like, same sort of thing. It's like you just admire it, I guess, but I guess I've been born that way too, to just like see it, and you're like,
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds a lot like, I mean, you love the community, first of all. I mean, it sounds like it's easy to go to bat for people you care about. I mean, and it's hard not to care about them once you've been in the room with them, you know?
mhm,
And that's super cool, first of all, because I mean, when you're starting out, you hear a lot of things like, make sure that you meet a lot of people to cross promote, like Sauce Market the other week, right? Like you go there and it's like there's a handful of people that are there to talk, and a handful is kind of on the high end, and the rest of the people are like, yeah, let me get your Instagram ad, never look at again, and it's
mhm,
like, well, that's not a very meaningful connection, but it's like you're just told like make as many connections as you can as fast as you can. It's like, well, that's not really it either. It's like, um, so it's, I don't know, it's heartening to hear that. But I'm also left with sort of this final question of what about the work inspires you? Because obviously the people do, but there is a lot of time as a camera person. There is a lot of time spent in a chair in front of a screen, right? So,
yeah.
what inspires you there? What keeps you enthused?
Oh, lots of things. I mean, like anything from like something taking your breath away in real life or in like any kind of media that you see, right? It's like you watch Blade Runner 2049 and you're just like, this is the sickest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I want to do that. Like, who the fuck wouldn't want to do that? So, you see that, or like, I don't know, maybe it's like you're outside and you're just like, you notice something in particular, the way like the light hits something, and it's like, you get appreciative, I guess, of like the art that you do. That like your eye is like trained to look for beauty or whatever the thing is, sorrow, like whatever your emotion is, like you've trained your eye to look for that. And like as like artistic people, like yeah, I think that in itself like inspires me to keep going. I think also yeah, like always people, but sometimes like not even like the people that you'd think. Like there's been times where it's just like, okay, at this event with Yola this past weekend, like I saw, mind you, like he's like weed YouTube and like podcasting and like great stuff, great content. Like I definitely like understand why, like no question there, obviously. But like at the end of the day, like he's a guy that smokes weed and like makes content, and like that's cool. And like to me, it's like I can really respect you for like what you do and that. But like there were people crying and they're like, dude, like you changed my life so much. Or that are even like willing in line when I'm like talking to them, like as I'm filming, to like say things like to somebody they look up to and idolize. Um, and like you can tell that it means something to them. And then you're like, I don't know, like I guess a part of something. Um, so yeah, like that element of it is like so awesome. Like that you should just like always try because like, you know, it's whether it's the subject of the video, photo, whatever that you were like paid to shoot, whether it's just a random thing that you caught, whether, you know, like just all the different aspects of it are just like, I don't know, you should be grateful to capture it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that I feel like, I mean, me personally, that you can make intangible things tangible to other people. And this is one of the things I think you do really well in your photos, at least the ones that are on the website. But that I always feel like there's a moment before. There's always an emotion that somebody has on their face that it even seems like whatever kicked off that feeling happened a few seconds ago, but it's still lingering, you know? Um, it's just really interesting. I haven't seen somebody um, like I love taking portrait photos. That's my thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but so I really enjoy your portraits because I feel like I'm not as good at capturing as I'd like to be. The sort of the moment before, which I think is um, evident in all of your photos I've seen, really. So I mean, good on you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Especially, I mean, you were no amateur with the portraits, sir.
Yeah,
Uh,
thanks.
yeah, dude. Um, that's cool you say that. I mean, I guess one thing, I guess a question for you, even if you're cool with it.
Yeah, sure.
Uh, so like, especially because like we've more or less like met through meetups and you know, I've been to the sauce market a few times. Like you're familiar with it. It's changed kind of every time, and I guess I wanted to one like I guess like explore your opinion on like that in general as somebody that was there, and then also like ask the question: do you think it would be helpful to you if there were you know artists of whatever different variety, whether it's photo, video, models, whatever, that were to do like uh, closed group like workshops and then like on specific topics and then you were like given the space to uh, not only like learn the sort of way that person does it but then shoot with them, do that, would that be something that you would think would be valuable for you?
Yeah, so I mean, Sauce Market, for anybody who's unfamiliar, in the Austin area, there's these meetups for photographers and models, and it's like catered to people starting out. And what's really cool about them is it's always in a really different location, and it seems, and it's almost off always open to the public, like just anybody who buys a ticket, I guess going forward. But it was open to the public up until it's got monetized. And to me, that's what's so cool about it is there's so much enthusiasm, there's so much like nervous energy, there's so much um like it's awkward to walk up to somebody and be like, hey, can I take your picture? Like, and especially like the older I get, you know, it's like the people are always 18 to 22, and it's like I'm 32 now, so it's like this is more awkward as I go to be at these things. It's almost like you know, being a teenager in a teenage environment as an adult, it's like this is a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But it's also because of that, as an artist, like I know that it pulls me out of what I'm comfortable with, and I've got to shoot a different angle, I've got to shoot a different, you know, person, somebody that I don't have natural chemistry with, which like as I advance in my career, then it's like the more likely I am to stick with people I'm comfortable around and subjects I'm comfortable with. So I love those events for that. um, and I feel like they are always a little bit different because of the people who show up, you know. And Samaj is great because he'll introduce the event, and then he sort of like walks up to people, talks for, you know, 30 seconds max, and then he'll walk away and sort of let things unfold as they will. He's not a real like hands-on in your face kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's great. I think it makes for a really good event. And as far as um, like breakout events and making it into um, sort of character studies, where I want my art to go is sort of more like historical, um, historical shoots, more or less. I mean, that's kind of a broad thing. So like the next one I want to do is sort of like circus themed, like the old like ringleader, big jacket, and all this stuff, like acrobats and stuff, like just a big scene with maybe like 10 models or something like that, and get everybody in period clothes and all that stuff, and get portraits of everybody outside of the scene. But I mean, get everybody in there all dressed up and makeup, and like I want to get things more complicated. Long story short,
Hmm.
and everybody I know who's doing like editorial stuff and portrait stuff in Austin that's doing it well, has access to a makeup artist, a hairstylist, a somebody who owns a studio, and they need somebody um, to film it like a BTS thing. And so like having access to something like that, I think would be great, because that's sort of like a shorthand to like, yeah, this is your pod, this is your group, and this will be your role in it, more or less. And um, and that would be like, I don't know, you'd be making your own little company for everybody who got to be a part of it. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's really good insight too, especially on the like like your opinions like as it's changing too, because like we want to be very like you said, like at the point that we're going to monetize it, like we want to make sure that we're like value packing everything that we do, and we're also like very community oriented. So like we're not trying to alienate, anybody. So like the idea is there's going to be a pretty good range of the types of events we do. Anything where it's like, super hands on, with like, again, if it's like really like fucking dope, photographers that we have in or like models or something, like, those are going to be the more, like workshop clothes sort of thing, a little bit more expensive. But then it's like, you know, I guess what we're trying to do is like we hear your exact sentiment a lot of the like, yeah, like we go to the meetup and it's like a little bit weird, and like Sauce Market tries really hard to make it like not weird. Like we really want it to be like, no, like for real, like everybody here is like pretty cool. Like nobody's really gonna give you, any kind of time. Like you should be comfortable going up to everybody. But like even still, like because of the format of that, it's like a little bit like I feel you. I don't super love going up to, you know, the 19-year-old model, you know, wearing whatever they're wearing. I'll say it that way. And you're just
Yeah.
like, hey, like I love the fact that that's like leather and reflective and like that's really cool. So like want to shoot and like you're like for real, dude. Like I got a girlfriend. Like I'm not even like trying to be any kind of way, man. But like it feels weird. So I know what you mean. So we want to like facilitate the aspect of you know just being able to have a space and like a designated thing that you're doing, because then also like the model side of it too, we're like how often do they just like have to deal with like whatever somebody wants to do, you know what I mean, like some random guy or girl going up to them and being like, hey, can you pose like all these kind of ways, and then they're like, what are these going to look like, are these even going to look good, like you know um
Yeah, like there's no
they don't
no
have as much a say in it, you
yeah,
know?
there's no guaranteed outcome for them, basically. I mean,
Right.
like the photographers get like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to do, and they're like, well, I wore this. We'll see how it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, facilitating a space for them to have like a little bit of voice in like what they're doing, right? Because like we would pick the models ahead of time, probably, and like, you know, like, hey, this is our scene. Like, if you want to input anything in it, like this is why we're picking you. But like we want your input on it as well. So like we're hoping that the models get to like grow from it. Again, it's like this whole community thing. But yeah,
Well,
wanted to say,
if I'm pitching something, here's my thought. The best conference I ever went to was Austin Film Festival, and so basically the morning session was like 10 to 11, 10 to noon, something like that. And it's like we all sit down and it's like, hey, this is what the festival is about, and this is basically what we're gonna do. And then they've got like a 15-minute version of what the seminars are going to look like and stuff, like right at the end after they've set expectations and told everybody what's going to happen. And so I feel like for Sauce Market, it's like, okay, your first session is all the models go here, all the photographers go here, and it's like this is what's expected of you today. and it's going to be fun, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Here's the things that you can work with. If you need to know how to use them, don't be afraid. Like, go talk to this guy. He knows how to use all the lights here, things like that. And then for like the models, like, don't be afraid to ask for what you want, because this is important. Don't get pushed around, and we'll tell the photographers not to push you around, that kind of stuff. And then, give everybody, like, like Austin Film Festival, you go out for about 20 minutes at the end of that session, and there's like coffee and food and stuff. And it's like, it wasn't even encouraged, like, go talk to other people at the event. It just ended up that a lot of people ended up talking. And then it was like, well, okay, you're on to the next activity now. And then there were things that you could sign up for that would be like, okay, well, I'm going to work with, I started doing like 30 for 30 events, where it's like, it's just a meet and greet. Everybody's there to talk, but for 30 minutes, you can work with this photographer for a little while, and so people get in line for that, and they talk. And it's just sort of like having these little break off groups that come back to the whole every so often. Seems to be a really good way to get people talking. I don't know. That's my pitch.
That's good. No, I like it. I like it. It spawns ideas in my head, which is at the point I figured you'd be a good person to ask. What with being, the Creative Thinker podcast,
Yeah.
and all that,
Heck yeah.
Good input.
Yeah. Well, I guess with that, I've asked all my questions. I know we've taken at least an hour of your time, so I want to be respectful of that. And just wanted to say, um, is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like said before we go?
Not that I can think of, but if there's any fleeting questions or anything, I'm happy to answer them. But, yeah.
All right. Just want to make sure I leave room for you. But thank you so much, Hawk, the owner of Nevermore Visuals production company, for for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate having you on. To our listeners, thank you for coming in for another week of the Creative Thinker podcast. I'm your host, Henry Moon. If you want to help out and support the channel and keep us rocking and rolling with cool people like Hawk on this podcast, then go to anchor.fm/CRTV THNKR. That's Creative Thinker without the vowels. Thank you so much, Hawk, for joining us. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.